All right, so Global TV came up with a new show called Nurses. It previewed this week, I believe. Its first episode. A lot of my colleagues have watched the show. They had certain critiques and views about it, and a lot of people wanted to know what my view about the show is. And I'm basically here to tell you about how I feel about the show. Yeah, I'll get into further details, and you know how I feel about this show. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. First of all, Happy New Year to everybody. I know it's been a while since I posted a video. I apologize. I've been busy with Christmas, work, all that jazz. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season. Had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yeah, so I just want to kind of say that. Second thing, of course, please subscribe to my videos, to my YouTube channel, Nursesoulbrother. You can also follow me on Twitter, at Nursesoulbrother. You can follow me on Facebook. I have my own Facebook page, which is Nursesoulbrother as well. And also I'm on Instagram as well too, Nursesoulbrother as well. The links you'll see right there posted below. All right, so reason why I'm doing this video is because Global TV, it's a Canadian channel station for all my non-Canadian peeps out there who might be watching this. They came out with a new series called Nurses. Okay, so basically it follows these brand new nurses who's just started working in a local hospital in the city, and basically it just follows their lives as nurses. Now I guess apparently the motto or the theme of this the theme of the show is to basically show how as nurses we care and we do so much compassion, okay, to our patients, which we do. Now, with that said, a lot of my friends and colleagues, particularly my colleagues who are nurses, have watched the show and they've had a lot of critique about it. And I thought to myself, before I jump on the bandwagon, before, I see all this stuff, and, because a lot of people know I like to go on social media and just speak my mind and all that stuff and everything, let me watch the video with an open mind, watch the show with an open mind, and then I'll kind of get my critique about it. So, like I said, so for those who, if you really are interested in the show and you don't want me to do a spoiler alert, I would probably suggest you might just want to fast forward maybe the first 30 seconds of this. I'm not going to do a complete synopsis of the show. I'm just going to do like a quick snippet, but I am going to be discussing certain things about the show. So anyway, so like I said, long story short, the TV show follows these, I think it's 4 or 5 nurses, I believe. They've just started. They're working in a hospital in a Canadian city. Looks like Toronto, because it looks like it was actually shot at Toronto General Hospital. And basically what ends up happening is that it follows in this first day. There's basically a it's like an attack. It's like a terrorist attack that happens. Someone is with their van, and they came running down people, and I guess there was an explosion of some sort. Now, it's funny they did this because this actually did happen in Toronto a couple years ago. It happened, I think it was April 23rd, 2018. There was a gentleman who basically was in his van and just started running down people, running and hitting and killing pedestrians. So I think they based it on that. So it basically follows the scenarios of all these nurses and how they kind of help with these patients. You've got one nurse who is helping one victim who ends up having to go to ICU. There's one nurse who ends up there's a guy, I guess there's a missing finger that he ends up having. For some reason, he's holding the missing finger in a bucket of ice, ends up finding the patient of their missing finger because it has a wedding ring on it. They really know that. There's a couple of different scenarios with it. I'm not gonna get too much detail with it, but that's just it. All right. So with that said, okay. So what's my opinion on the show? Let's just let's get into it. The concept of the show, good. I will give the concept of the show was great. The plot itself. The plot was good. I can't hate on the plot. You got a little juicy thing too. You know what I'm saying? So the plot was good. It followed all these lives and everything, and how as nursing, we're very compassionate in what we do. However, okay, There were a lot of inconsistencies, and this is the problem though, because as a nurse, when I see medical dramas and stuff, I'm gonna pick this stuff out. However, as a nurse, there were, and I understand they did this because they wanted to be compassionate and so forth, but there were a lot of things that these nurses did on the show, which, as one of my good colleagues said, if we actually did this, we would get reported to the CNO, which is the College of Nurses Ontario here. But this would be no different than like the HIPAA laws in the states and other, regulations across different countries and provinces and states and so forth. So, okay, so I'm gonna break it down to you the certain things that they did. Like I said, if it's a spoiler alert, I'm sorry. I'm just giving you a piece of my mind. It is what it is. Okay, so so first of all, one of the things that bothered me when I first started was, okay, so I mentioned to you about some guy, a paramedic came in and they found like a missing finger. And the paramedic, I have to admit, the paramedic, she was kind of rude. I don't know why. I didn't like that kind of stereotype too. They're trying to make like paramedics are rude and they're not rude. Actually, nurses and paramedics were like this. We work as a unit, you know what I'm saying? So this paramedic just came off very rude to this new nurse and was like, oh, we have this. Here's a bucket of, it's like a little lunch bucket. Opens it. It's a missing finger. No name, no nothing, whatever. And she's like, you just have to find him. So I was kind of like, that's kind of odd because normally you don't just find some missing finger and you gotta like play, hide and go seek for it. So that kind of threw me off for the first thing. So I wasn't really feeling that. One major thing where I was like, oh hell nah. So one of the patients apparently needed a blood transfusion. Okay, so one of the nurses was assessing this patient and whatever. He was supposedly one of the victims. He needed a blood transfusion. The doctor's like, well, he needs a blood transfusion right now. Hey, I'm gonna donate my own blood. Here you go. Let me just roll up my sleeve here, and you can just take my blood and transfuse it, and we can give it to the patient. Hell no. Okay, let me just say that again. Hell no. That is, we do not do that, okay? No. Okay, so just for those who don't know, if there's a situation where there's a mass casualty and stuff like that, which another thing too, which I kind of want to add as well, when there's something of that magnitude, normally, I don't know how it works in the States and so forth, but I know like it's particularly in Toronto and I think in Canada also, but I know in Ontario, we have different codes. So we have code, code black, code orange, all stuff. For us, we have something called code orange, okay? Code orange is where basically there's a large possible casualties outside, like external casualty, okay? So what that means is that we have systems in place to maintain that. So we'll stock up with doctors, nurses, all that stuff. We'll set up like all these kind of like, places and sites and all that stuff, and we kind of get that all set up and done, okay? They don't just start rolling in like that, like with just not being prepared. So I just want to throw that out there. But anyway, but the whole transfusion thing, no, okay? So what ends up happening, just for you guys know, if there's a situation where we need lots of transfusion, a lot of hospitals have a protocol called a mass blood transfusion protocol. And basically what that is that we basically contact our blood bank and say, yo, listen, we need, I don't know, 30 units of blood. We need to keep that aside because we have like a mass casualty of people that are going and really need blood. Normally what ends up happening, because you don't have time to cross type and match and so forth, they will save O negative, because O negative is like the universal blood, okay? So they will basically save all that blood, okay? And you would get transfused until they do a cross match and so forth and so forth. Under no circumstances where you as a doctor or a staff member is going to be like, okay, here you go, here's my vein, and then you can just start. No. I don't know who thought of that, but I'm telling you right now, that's ethically wrong. That just blew my mind. I don't know who thought about that. You don't do that, okay? So there's that. Another thing that threw me off is, okay, so there's one nurse who was trying to find a fetal heart rate for a baby, a woman who was pregnant, and for some reason he couldn't find the fetal heart rate. He was nervous and he started to freak out. The patient was like, what's going on? He's like, I can't find the heart rate. I can't find the baby heart rate. Call someone quick. So of course the woman's freaking out. The charge nurse walks in and then he finds it and so forth, and because I guess he positioned it wrong. I have an issue with that because, again, now it's funny because I was talking to my wife about that. My wife was like, "Well, no, he should have said that because I'd rather know there's something wrong than you guys have a way of hiding it." And I said, "Well, no, because first and foremost, the last thing you want to do is freak out the patient, okay?" In a situation like that, what should have happened is if he didn't find the heart rate, he should have been just, hold on, let me just call my colleague quickly and just make sure, okay? Because when you saying that, it's going to freak out the patient, and then when you find the heart rate, then the patient's going to look at you like you don't know what you're doing. So I didn't like that situation. Yeah, it was his first day. And also, too, if you can't find something, you shouldn't be doing a task that you don't do, okay? If you're not familiar with the task, you ask. Simple as that. But of course, it's drama TV, so they're gonna make it all, spice it up, and make it all suspenseful and all that crap. So, there's that. So another thing that happened, which was like, I guess there was a victim that was part of the whole casualty, being run over or something. I think he was run over. Anyway, so he was part of like this attack, and he was complaining of head pain and he couldn't see and so forth. And as a nurse is assessing him, she turns around and I guess she goes to go back to him, and then all of a sudden he faints. So he faints and he has a seizure. Okay, so when he was having the seizure, there were a couple of things that were a little bit off. The way how they handled it was not really correct, but I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. But what threw me off though was the doctor literally shined his pen light in the patient's eyes while he's seizing and immediately said, "This person needs to go to OR stat right now. Let's rush him up right now." So first and foremost, I'd like to say that is incorrect. Okay. Shining a light in someone's eye definitely gives us a neurological status, but that doesn't tell us that they need to go to OR stat. What normally happens is that they need to go to CT. Okay, so they need to get a CT head stat, because a CT head is going to show us exactly what's going on, and it's also going to show if they're even able to go to the OR, right? If it's something that's not operable, there's no point of us going, there's no point of doing it. So that was kind of incorrect for me, and I was like, no, nah. Also, too, for the most part, too, and this is for my OR peeps, my OR nurses, you can't just send people up to OR. It doesn't work like that. They're not sitting there playing cards, keying it up with their colleagues, having a good old funky time, just waiting for things to happen. OR doesn't work like that. You don't just come waltzing in OR and be like, "Yo, I got this person here, y'all need to work." It doesn't work like that. So that, yeah. So there was that. Speaking about surgery, there's another scene where a nurse was bringing a patient into surgery because they needed to get some surgical procedure done. That part was a little bit incorrect too, because first of all, the nurse just waltzed right in, no sterile gown whatsoever, pushed the patient into the surgery room, and then no one wasn't scrubbed up, no one was nothing. So that was kind of odd. And another side note too, I noticed that they're always showing the nurses pushing the patients. That's normally not the case. It's usually there's porters that do that, but I guess they want to add the dramatic thing. But I'm not gonna whatever. One thing too, this was another major thing, a major HIPAA violation of some sort. Well, we have CNO regulations. So one of the nurses, so the patient apparently who had the seizure and so forth, it was weird. So I guess he went to surgery. I'm not too sure, but anyhow, the family member was there, and the family member was asking the nurse, "Well, what's going on?" The charge nurse of that unit basically told this nurse, "The doctor's too busy. He's in OR, so you're gonna have to tell the patient what the diagnosis is and the prognosis." Hell no. Okay, so I just want to just clarify that nurses are not allowed to diagnose, and nurses are not allowed to do a prognosis. Nurses can be in a discussion with the doctor, but it's the doctor who has to say all that stuff. The nurse can't tell you, "Oh yeah, this person's diagnosed with such and such and such, and this is their prognosis." We didn't go to medical school for that. And that's a major issue, because if something happens and you diagnose something wrong, or the patient ends up dying, which in this case the patient ended up dying, sorry for a spoiler alert, then you're in trouble. You're gonna lose your license because you made a false You stepped out of your scope of practice. We don't do that. So that was a major thing, and also too on top of that too, because I mentioned about the patient dying, because the nurse also said, oh yeah, he'll make a good recovery, which he didn't. So you see what I'm saying? But again, of course, he added for the drama and all that jazz. So nah. So there was that. I mentioned again the nurse walking around with the cooler, like the nurse with the finger. Again, that kind of bothered me because the nurse was literally walking all day with lunch with the finger cooler, which we don't do that. That was just kind of odd. Another violation too was, so apparently it turns out that one of the nurses who was taking care of the patient apparently was the suspect of the whole terrorist attack that happened with writing down people. So she decides to go on the work's computer, I guess starts going on social media, finds out all these hate pages that he did and so forth and so forth. So I can understand why they did that, but you don't do that on work's computer. That's something that you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to be doing all that stuff. That's like a whole privacy violation thingy. You don't do that. I mean, quite frankly, if you wanted to do that, she could have just went on her cell phone. You know what I'm saying? And find that information herself, but you don't do that at work. So that was kind of no. Another violation thingy, which was so the nurse who was trying to find the fetal heart rate, he ended up being an L&D and was watching this patient and so forth. So they get into a lot of story. Now, one thing I want to mention too, it's okay for the patient to, if they want to tell their life story, it's totally up to you. But as nurses, you have to respect their privacy. So this one nurse had said she's having a baby. She broke up with her significant other. Significant other doesn't know that she's having the baby here and wishes that she should have been here. Basically, what this nurse does, of course, it's all for plots because apparently us nurses are supposed to, be compassionate, decides to dig up the patient's profile, phone the significant other, and basically said, yeah, such and such is having a baby, come to the hospital now. Hell no, okay? No, okay? That is against privacy. Like, of course, they make it, it ends up that, the significant other comes in, and she's all happy and blah 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 blah, but no, we are not allowed to go into patients' profiles and call a significant other without the patient's consent. Like, that was just no. That's against HIPAA laws. That's against no. Okay. That was that. Now another thing too, which I didn't like. I'm making this video long. I'm so sorry this video's long, but this is just my little rant. Was so back to the nurse that had the patient the nurse that was diagnosing the patient with whatever condition he had, the one in the ICU. So, okay. The doctor finally tells the family member, oh, by the way, this patient's not going to make it. They have an hypoxic brain injury, so they're not going to survive. They're basically brain dead. So now the doctor, of course the family member, she's crying, she's upset. Of course anyone would be if you're told that news. So the doctor basically tells this nurse now, okay, so now you need to talk to this family member about organ donation, okay? No, okay? Organ donation does come in effect, don't get me wrong, but now I can't speak for other organizations like outside of Ontario, Canada, United States, whatever. I will say though, in Ontario, the nurses don't do that. We have our own special team. It's called Trillium Gift of Life. They're the ones who do that, and they normally wait a bit. Like, they don't just come bulging right in. That's just completely unethical. It's like this woman's crying that her poor son is now dead, and you're gonna be like, so do you want to donate his organs? No, I didn't like the way how that came off. One of the last things too, which I didn't kind of like too, is so there was a press conference about the whole attack, and one of the nurses, for some reason, was answering all the questions. Like she was at the front and they were like asking her all these questions and da 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 da. And she's like, well, you know, blah 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 blah. We're trying to do our best to take care of this and da 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 da. Okay, so for the record, that does not happen. Okay, normally it's usually a representative of the hospital. If it's not the CEO, it's some public relations, some forth. The nurses are not allowed to discuss anything to the media regarding any patient's condition and so forth. Again, I know they did it for drama and they did it for excitement and da 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 da. So that's kind of like my whole take about my whole thing. So the concept of the show was good. The plot wasn't that bad. Oh, I forgot to add one thing, which was a big no-no. Sorry. So the patient that ended up being the suspect, there was an ethical dilemma that they tried to play out, which I personally did not like. One nurse was like, he's a killer. You should kill him. You should overdose him with morphine. He killed all these people. I'm taking care of someone who's upstairs in ICU who can't walk again and can't da-da-da-da-da, and you saved his life. And so the other nurse was like, well, no, it's our duty to save his life, which I agree with her 100% because that's your duty. You can't really put your ethical. But this one nurse was like, no, you need to overdose and da-da-da-da. Okay, so just for the record, we don't do that, okay? So, yeah, there are patients where you're just like, oh Lord of mercy. Like, I mean, I can understand the ethical dilemma, but at the end of the day, you need to treat that patient. You cannot put your views and your ethics on that patient. If that patient's coming here, they need life-saving regimes. That person needs life-saving regimes. That would be no different if I came in or like, you know, I'm treating like a KKK person. This person's dead, or this person got shot and they're like, we're doing CPR. I'm not gonna like be like, yeah, bro. That guy can like dead and gone. I don't care. I'm not gonna do that. No, it's still my duty as a nurse to take care of it. Now you can change your assignment and not take care of that patient, but you can't upright be like, yo, just kill off that patient. So I wanted to touch about that. But anyways, going back to what I was saying. Sorry, I'm totally jumping subjects here and so forth. The show itself, okay, the concept, an excellent concept. The plot was okay, but there were a lot of like my colleague said, like there were a lot of like law breaking stuff that they did in that show that as an actual nurse we would not be able to do that. So I would probably recommend, I already know they probably produce their shows already, but if you know, my recommendation is, you know, if they're gonna do shows like this, they really need to make sure they have people with medical background or even like actual doctors and nurses to give their feedback, because I know it's all drama and fantasy and so forth and it's all fictional, but when you start mixing fiction with people's real careers, what ends up happening is that the public gets a perception of how these people are in their career. So so if I were to give it a rating, probably like a 5. I'm being honest. A 5. Just because there were too many mistakes in there that bothered me. Like, I kept pausing it every 2 seconds and just start yelling at not yelling at my wife, but I was like, oh my God, look what they did, and she's like, what, and I'm like, explaining to her, so so I wasn't really impressed with the show in that aspect, but the concept was good. I'm not gonna talk about the acting. I'm not a critique about acting. I was just more of what they did, but yeah, so that's my review of the show. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Feel free to comment below. Do you guys like the show? Did you not like the show? What did you like about it? What you didn't like about it? Is there things that could be better? And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, so yeah, that's my view as a nurse commenting on the show Nurses. All right, take care. Deuces.